What's happening, guys? Welcome to the Rash Child channel. I'm Ash, and today I'm going to be looking at 5 Iron Maiden songs that I get laughed at for loving. So, the channel is called Rash Child, and that's because it's just more interesting than calling myself just Ash. So, I've been a huge Iron Maiden fan since I was about 17. But first time I ever heard Iron Maiden was when I used to go to my grandfather's house for lunch sometimes. And I would, skim through the music channels, Kerrang, and things like that. And I was skimming through one day and this came on. Now, those 3 chords immediately grabbed me. And, the video is kind of interesting, it's a mix of live and, and the fantasy of Icarus and that story. But yeah, those 3 chords, down, down, dun, 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 dun. I mean, that grabbed me so much. So much so that the next week I went shopping with my mother and I went to a local HMV store and I was looking around the albums and, there's so many different albums, but I decided to get the greatest hits album at the time, which was called Edward the Great. But this was the original one, not the one that featured Dance of Death and things like that at the end of it. And yeah, I listened to that album over and over and over and over. I loved the songs on it. I was a bit confused because there was 2 songs with a different singer, but we'll get to that later. That was when I was about 14 or 13, I think. And even though I loved it, I didn't reach out and try and get all the other albums or anything like that. I was still into other music at the time. But later, a few years later, when the album A Matter of Life and Death came out, and I was in college at the time, and when this album came out, my friends were really excited to buy it. And very luckily, they were coming on tour, and they played the entire album, by itself, and then a few little singles at the end. And it was funny because they were supported by Trivium, and one of my friends, he wanted to see Trivium, so we both got tickets. I think they cost about £75 because, we'd waited a bit too late. Yeah, he just wanted to watch Trivium, who in typical fashion at any Iron Maiden, gig, they were booed and given a lot of crap, but yeah, I thought they were okay. And anyway, but my friend didn't realize that they were going to play the new album, which he only knew the singles, So at the end, they played 2 Minutes to Midnight and Hallowed Be Thy Name, which was, for me, it was awesome to see those songs. But I was really, really into that album, A Matter of Life and Death, because it was a new album at the time, and I listened to it over and over. And, there's a few repeated choruses a few times, but it's fantastic. I love it. And yeah, that's when I became hooked into Iron Maiden, and that's also when I started really trying to play guitar, and I mostly learned guitar from just playing Iron Maiden songs. I became obsessed with Iron Maiden. I bought all their CDs and, just went through them, listening to every song, and I, pretty much loved everything. And there was a local band too called Spawn of Eddie, who I went to see a few times. They were amazing, anything Iron Maiden I wanted to get. And I was lucky at the same year to go to Download Festival to see them, and I had a crazy experience because I woke up really early to see Iron Maiden because I wanted to be right at the front. So I woke up really early, went to the front of the stage, about 9 a.m. and I sat through a crazy amount of bands: Lamb of God, Mastodon, Chimera, Evanescence, I guess. But there was pits. It was crazy. I had no food. I was just drinking the water that they were spraying from the little. I didn't think it through. I was just excited to go there, and it was amazing. It was awesome. Now, if you are actually a huge Iron Maiden fan, none of these songs I'm sure will surprise you, or none of these songs you'll probably agree with me that they were great. But I'm talking about when you recommend a band to someone, for example, myself recommending, hey guys, listen to Iron Maiden. These are some songs that I've played to them and they always get either laughed at or something negative said about them. And that's why I have a test. Whenever you're trying to get someone into Iron Maiden, I use the Rainmaker test, this song. Literally the first 30 seconds, because it starts off with a really cool, melodic riff, and I think when most people hear this song, they're like, oh, okay, this is really good. Then when it kicks in, Bruce Dickinson says this. When I was wandering in the desert, I was searching for the truth. I heard a choir of angels calling out my name. Okay, stop. The second line. A choir of angels calling out my name. Now, play this song to your friend, watch their face when they hear that line. If they cringe or wince, then there's no point trying to continue anymore, because a lot of Iron Maiden lyrics do have these kind of, poetic and not, I wouldn't say cheesy, but those kind of lines that does ruin it for some people. So here's the 5 songs that I love that I've recommended to people that they've just laughed at me for. Number 5.
The sheriff of Huddersfield locked in his castle, looked down on the Hollywood hills. The sheriff of Huddersfield locked in his castle. You're our own hot rod on wheels. You know.
The Sheriff of Huddersfield. Now, this is one of those things that I love about Iron Maiden, is their sense of humor, and especially British sense of humor, because you know, humor is very difficult because it does depend on the country where you're from, and even references, you know. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of American movies, and a lot of the references I just didn't get, and, you know, I couldn't really enjoy the joke until later when you figure it out. Basically, the manager of Iron Maiden, Rod Smallwood, he's been with them since, you know, essentially the beginning. He's a huge part of the family, as they call it. And, you know, through watching documentaries and things like that, you can see that he's got a huge influence on the guys, and he's very serious about what he talks about. And I think the song's really, really good, the music wise, because actually it's I think it's the guitarist Adrian Smith. He had a band before Iron Maiden called Urchin, which didn't really turn out, and which resulted in him actually joining Iron Maiden. But yeah, anyway, this song, Sheriff of Huddersfield, was a B-side on the Wasted Years single. Now, Wasted Years is a huge classic Iron Maiden song. I'm sure most people know it. But on the B-side was there was 2 songs, which was Reach Out, which was another song which Adrian Smith sung, which is, I think, is really, really good. But also this song, Sheriff of Huddersfield. It's just a joke about he moved from the UK to LA, and he was just complaining about it, and typical British fashion. And yeah, I think I love the song. I think it's funny. But also there's a lot of Bruce Dickinson doing a Yorkshireman impression, you know, oh bloody hell, you know, and it's funny for me as a British person because you know those types of people. But sometimes humor doesn't really translate, and I think Bruce Dickinson is quite funny, and I like his humor. I like the whole band's humor. For example, the time they were on TV and they were forced to mime, so they just decided to switch all their instruments in the middle of the song. And I think the chorus is great, you know? It's just great. It's a nice Iron Maiden melody. It's a little bit, you know, too maybe major sounding, but, you know, I think it's awesome. Number 4. Number 4, Judas Be My Guide. Now, this song is off the album Fear of the Dark. And now, Fear of the Dark, the song, is hugely popular, of course. The album, which was after Seventh Son and the Seventh Son, was No Prayer for the Dying. And by this time, Adrian Smith, the, you know, very popular guitarist, had left the band, you know, and Bruce was, I don't know, like, he changed his voice up into this raspy theatrical thing, which, you know, I think it works, but it does feel that Bruce seems like a guy who really wants to not repeat the same thing, you know, and wanted to experiment with things. You know, he was doing his own solo band with like kind of rock stuff and acoustic-y things. You know, he always wanted Iron Maiden to do an acoustic song, but they never really did up until, you know, recently, maybe on Dance to Death, Journeyman and things like that. But I wouldn't say that Bruce is not trying, but he does seem a little bit different on this. And also, at the same time, Steve Harris wanted to change the sound of the album. You know, they were going from this very produced, synthetic kind of sound, which I think is amazing. Anyway, Judas Be My Guide. I think this is an amazing song. It's probably my favorite song on the album. You know, it's written by Dave Murray and Bruce, and you can tell it's Dave Murray because it always starts off with like a big legato-y solo kind of thing, and you know, that's kind of his thing. But it's great. I think the chorus is amazing. I love the harmonies in it, you know, and it's just a great, great song. And I would love to have seen them play these songs live. It's got one of those, you know, little, you know, those little melodic runs that they do, which I like. But whenever I show people this song, they just laugh at the title and the chorus, you know, Judas, you know, I guess it's a bit on the nose or whatever, but I think it's an awesome song, and I would love to have seen this one live. Number 3.
All my life.
It's a Blaze Bayley song. Oh, now in the Iron Maiden world, there's nothing more dividing than Blaze Bayley. You know, was he good? Was he not? A lot of people hate them. They say it's not even Iron Maiden. I'm kind of in the middle. You know, I like his songs, but when he was doing the old songs, it just never worked out. You know, this song, which is off the X Factor, which is the first album to feature Blaze, is called Judgment of Heaven, and I think this is just a great song. And be honest, I would love to have heard Bruce singing this. Oh, it would sound so great with all the orchestration and things like that they do on it. Oh, I would love it. Yeah, I just love the chorus and the groove of the song, you know. I think it's a great chorus, but also the lyrics are, if you've come from, you know, The Trooper and Number the Beast and things like that, you know, quite energetic songs and very, you know, come on, let's do it, you know. Or even Flight of Icarus, you know, fly as high as the sun. And then you've got, you know, I've contemplated suicide a few times. You know, it isn't really that Iron Maiden-y, but of course at the time Steve Harris was in a bit of a depressed state, and so the lyrics really do reflect that. You know, that's fine, but yeah, there's a guy on YouTube called Thomas Zwijsen. I can't even pronounce his name. Zwijsen, I don't know, but yeah, he does you know, acoustic songs of Iron Maiden, and he got Blaze to do this song with him. It's in a church. Listen to this.
At the right you thought was wrong. All of my life I have believed judgment of heaven is waiting for me.
Might not be your cup of tea, but I think Blaze sounds awesome there. I love him singing this song. I think it's a very heartfelt song, and the lyrics are very, you know, just it makes me think about things. Number 2.
When you know that your time has come, original, you'll be prepared for it. Say your last goodbyes to everyone and drink, and say a prayer for it.
Dance to Death. Now, of course, most Maiden fans love this song, but there's a little problem with a little part in it. I'm talking about this part. Yeah. Now, I totally get it. If you think that is very cheesy and very like, what the hell is that? You know, it is very bardish, isn't it? You know, like, and I get it. But it fits the theme of the album so much, you know, like the album cover, you know, of course, you can't recommend this album to anyone, even though it's an amazing album, because you just say, oh guys, let's listen to this album. What? Yeah. So the album is, you know, it's kind of a famous story, but basically the artist made like a mock-up of, you know, of the album with those kind of CG kind of figures, and they were just like, yeah, that'll do, perfect. And the artist is like, no, this is just like a rough idea. Oh, perfect, mate, perfect. No, leave it as it is. All right, you know. And what's even funny is that, like, they've never Steven Spielberged it. They've never gone back and changed it and updated it or anything like that. And that's another thing why I love Iron Maiden. They do what they want to do, and they don't change for anybody, you know. And it's great. But anyway, this album is so good, but it is let down by the cover, because anyone looks at it just laughs at it and just thinks it's stupid. And they're not wrong, you know. I love it. I think it's great, and especially this part.
As I danced from the dead, my free spirit was laughing and howling down at me.
Every time that kicks in, I just get that it's a feeling, yeah. Well, every time. Number 1, Only the Good Die Young.
Only the good die young. All the evil seem to live forever. Only the good die young. All the evil seem to live forever. Only the good die young.
This song is easily as good as any of their big hits, you know. I put this up there with The Trooper, Number the Beast, all those songs. It's an amazing song. And it's the last song on a great album, but oh my god, it is just so good. It's amazing. It's got great energy, and this bass part. Listen to this. Oh, it's just so good. I used to listen to that on repeat. I would just go back and rewind, just listen to that. It's just so good. I love it. And it's funny that when I was in college, there was a guy who weirdly looked like Adrian Smith, who used to wear Iron Maiden shirts and the bandana and things like that. And he would go around and say the first line of this song all the time.
The demon in your mind will rape you in your bed at night.
Can you imagine that? A guy walking around saying this line. And also, this song feels much longer than it actually is. Now, one of the biggest complaints in recent years is that Iron Maiden songs do you know, they do take a long time to finish, you know, and this song seems much longer than it actually is because it's got a lot of different parts or whatever, but it's under 4 minutes, and then it ends with the Seventh Son acoustic part. I highly recommend this song, it's awesome. Yeah, so those are my top 5 Iron Maiden songs that I get laughed at for liking, but I'm sure if you are an Iron Maiden song, you love all those songs, but people outside of the Iron Maiden bubble, you know, they do laugh at me for liking them. Alright guys, take care, catch you next time.